Well, hello, my history scholars. We're back in the saddle again. We had a busy day yesterday choosing our valedictorian for the class of 2020. So, congratulations goes out to Damien Collings, who will be your valedictorian for graduation this year. Um, this week, this is our last part of Canadian History X, and this is called Penitentiaries and Underground Bunkers. So, we're going to be looking a little bit into the Cold War and how the Cold War affected Canada. The Cold War, of course, there was a threat of nuclear war between the United States and the USSR or Russia. Of course, if that happened, we would be affected as well, seeing as we're next door neighbors with the United States. Um, so we're going to look at the Diefenbunker. The Diefenbunker is an underground bunker that would have housed government operations in the event of a nuclear attack on our country. It was named after Prime Minister John Diefenbaker, and basically it would provide the continuity of government. The facility could hold, 500 and some people for about 30 days. No prime minister has actually ever stepped foot in the Diefenbunker, but I did. We a few years ago we did a school exchange and we were able to tour the Diefenbunker. This is the entrance to the Diefenbunker. So there's a lot of pictures I have from our travels. This is actually a replica of the atomic bomb that was dropped to end World War II. So you basically go down this like big long tunnel to get in there. They call that the blast tunnel. Um, and these big, gigantic iron doors that were to keep out the radioactive material if there was an attack. There's decontamination chambers, like basically showers, paper slippers. They had a full medical center in there as well. This was just inside some of the hallways. It was kind of like something in like a horror movie. It was really creepy when we were in there. But they had everything that they needed, to basically survive for about 30 days. So yeah, you can check out some of the pictures that we took. There's a bedpan. They had full medical services, surgery tables, etc., etc. Once again, it's extremely creepy looking. Um, yeah, so you can just kind of scroll through here. They had, a dental office as well, um, industry, trade, and commerce. So essentially, these were all rooms that were set up to keep our country going if there was a nuclear attack. This is kind of like the war room. Um, it was, technology was not. It's a little laughable today. Um, yeah, so you can go through here. They even had like a big vault. This is where they would have kept money and stuff like that, I guess. So this was kind of cool. This was like their food. It was actually interesting. You'll see here, there's actually Visser family potatoes from PEI in the Diefenbunker. There was a freezer that also worked as a morgue, so they had body bags. You can see a body bag there in case they needed that. Um, and this, of course, that's the siren that if there was a nuclear attack, that thing would ring, and I guess you wouldn't want to hear that thing ring. And that's just outside the Diefenbunker. Next, Kingston Penitentiary. So Kingston Penitentiary is Canada's most infamous prison. The worst of Canada's criminals went there. 433 cells. It was nicknamed KP. For over 200 years, it was Canada's most feared prison. Um, it was built by the prisoners, and locals would actually pay money to come see the prisoners work. Um, there was one rule in Kingston Pen that was total silence. So Morse code, like tapping on things, that's how a lot of prisoners communicated. Um, Corporal punishment was a thing. So that's like uh, I have some pictures. Oh, there was a riot as well in 1971. The riot was when the prisoners basically backlashed about the conditions that they were living under. Um, We got to tour the Penitentiary Museum on a school trip as well. So this is in Kingston, Ontario. So this is the bell in the 1971 riot. They broke the bell. The bell kind of controlled how the prison operated on a day-to-day basis. Um, in the museum, it was pretty crazy. There was some pretty gnarly corporal punishments that ensued to kind of keep prisoners in line. And then we ask ourselves, is that against, is that morally right or wrong? Corporal punishment is no longer a thing in Canada. Straight jackets, whips, they called these things the cats. This was kind of like solitary confinement. It was just like a coffin with one little hole in it. Um, this was this is what they would use to waterboard someone. So they would put you in here. Your head would go in that first barrel, and then the barrel sitting on top was full of water, and that would come down, and you would be essentially waterboarded, be a form of torture. This is all like the shanks and knives and stuff like that they've confiscated over the years at Kingston Pen. This on the left, this is how big one of the original jail cells were. Basically, just enough for someone to lay down. That's not a real guy, by the way. That's a dummy. Um, this was a bunch of lunch trays that they had fashioned. One guy got inside here and smuggled himself out of Kingston Pen. Like a lot of homemade contraband, weapons, things like that. Um, Even like the softball here, it was used to smuggle drugs and messages between inmates in the exercise yard. I went to Kingston Pen. Kingston Penitentiary is now closed as an actual prison, but you can still tour it. It actually it's one of like the biggest money makers for Parks Canada. So Mr. Munn and I actually we went to Kingston Pen. We had to get a bracelet, and they had to make sure all the bracelets were accounted for when we left because for the fear of someone getting like locked inside the penitentiary. This was kind of like where you came in. That's where you could visit. If you had a family member in prison, that would be like where you would talk to them. This is the center block. All the tours are given by the old guards, the people who actually used to work as prison guards. Um, so yeah, we got to tour around and see some of the different things. Once again, it's pretty crazy. So you can see the jail cell is 6 feet wide. That's Mr. Munn basically touching both walls in his jail cell. Yeah, so you can flick through some of these pictures. The carpentry shops, obviously they had a lot of these prisoners working and even trying to like reform them. So that whenever they got back on the outside, they could hopefully become productive members of society. That's the exercise yard. And this was like rules and regulations of the convicts. And then just to finish off, I'd like you to watch this documentary, Secrets from Canada's Most Famous Prison, Kingston Pen. So that's a 44-minute documentary. It's really interesting. So yeah, check that out. After you go through the content, if you could just write a one-page response, some of the things that stuck out to you this week, and anything in particular you learned, and then just submit that when you're done. Okay. Hope all is well. Once again, I'm just an email away. Anything you need, shoot me an email, and I'll get back to you. Other than that, have a great week, and we'll chat soon.